reason I think it's important that you also include opinions when you're sharing your little highlights and nuggets and things that you're talking about in your day-to-day life, because opinions can then help the other person better navigate that conversation. They're like signals of how to react and how to respond. They show where you stand and how you feel, and then that person can navigate that with more clarity, right? Really great conversations are when they flow and they feel easy and you're connecting and you're vibing and it's back and forth, and that rhythm feels effortless, right? That's really what people want, and it's sometimes that is energy. It's hard to really define where that comes from. But on the other hand, I'm sure we've all felt like awkward conversations where you just don't know what the other person's thinking. They're not really giving much away. They're not really sharing much. They feel quite closed off. Like that feeling, we want to avoid that, And I just think if you share what you've been up to and you haven't shown how you feel about that, the other person doesn't want to put their foot in it or say something wrong. Or like, imagine if you're like, oh yeah, I spent time with my family this weekend. And the other person goes, oh, lovely, family's so important. Did you have a good time? And then you're like, oh, actually, no, I hate my family. That's so awkward, right? And the other person's going to feel terrible. Whereas if you say, oh, I spent time with my family this weekend. Oh, we don't get on the best though, so it was a little bit awkward. I was glad when it was over. The other person can then tread more carefully and navigate that with just more care. Maybe they don't ask you too much about it. Maybe they kind of navigate the conversation towards something else. It's easier to navigate and avoid awkward situations, right? If you say, I went to a restaurant, the other person's going to be like, okay, how was it, right? You're kind of still waiting for more. Whereas if you say, I went to a restaurant, the food was amazing, they get to ask you about that with more enthusiasm, right? Likewise, if you say, I went to a restaurant, God, the service was quite bad though, they get to be curious and be like nosy about that and be like, oh my God, what happened? Tell me. And navigate that with more clarity too. So the opinions also just help guide the conversations with more ease. They help the other person react and respond, and you get to be on the same page.